So, welcome back to vlog for week 8 to week 11. I took a little bit of a break after week 7 just because there wasn't too much going on and I didn't have that much to share. You might be wondering why the setup is a little bit nicer than usual. I'm actually working on a different channel and you're helping me trial the look of it right now. I'm not going to share what that channel is, but if you're interested in that type of content, hopefully you will find my face on a different channel somewhere else. So, we're catching up on a few weeks. So the reason I didn't vlog in week 8 was largely because you might have seen in week 7, I slightly injured myself. So I'm not sure if I've already told this in a previous vlog, but I was walking down a ramp and the ramp had a little bit more of a sticky surface and my crutch got caught and I landed really heavily on my Vacaped boot. So even with my foot in the boot, I took on a little bit of damage and my Achilles started talking to me. So I started to take a little bit of a rest. I whacked my boot back into sort of the equinus position and I just went backwards for a week. That was week 8. And then in week 9, I was going to see the physio again. So I delayed my appointment by a week because there just wasn't much to do. Carried on doing my physio exercises. And then in week 9, I tried to catch up. So I ratcheted back down the angle. So I went from like 30 degrees, which I left it in for a week because my Achilles, I could feel it quite sore actually every day. After in week 9, so about a week after just leaving it in the 30 degrees, so the highest angle, I started going back down, trying to catch up effectively, which perhaps I shouldn't have done, especially when I saw the physio in week 9. So I went down to 20 degrees, 15 degrees, and somehow ended up at 10 when I really should have only been at 15 to catch up. So when I had my physio appointment in week 9, a few things came out of it. So I got a massage from the physio and a little bit of testing of the Achilles, and it felt reasonably good. And obviously, just because he knew also that I'd sort of hurt myself, we were taking things easy and got a bit of a telling off because I'd ratcheted down and caught up and gone even further than I would have had I not had a little bit of a setback. So my physio told me to leave it locked. So I left it locked for another 2 weeks at the 10-degree level. So that was a little bit frustrating because I, should have been working down, but I was happy to do it because I knew I'd probably push the limit and try to accelerate when I shouldn't have. And the other thing that came out of it was I was doing way too much walking. So my ankle is quite swollen when I get there. And I have quite a trek to get there anyway, taking buses and public transport. So I spend a lot of time on my feet, but the truth is my ankle's always swollen and I thought that was just normal. So I would see it swollen every day and I just thought if I'm in the boot and I'm walking around, then that's fine. That's just how it is. And he was a bit concerned and told me to really ease off and do half the amount of steps I was doing because that amount of swelling is not good and it impacts the healing. So that was a bit of a shock to me. So I made sure for the next 2 weeks after that physio appointment that I laid off and took actually a full amount of rest. And I actually took a whole week off from the gym. It worked quite well with my schedule because I'd worked out for about 6 or 7 weeks anyway. So it was time for a rest week anyway. I took a full rest week and really reduced how much I was walking. And I saw the swelling in my ankle come down significantly. So that was a lot better. That was pretty much it from that appointment. So in week 10, I had a little bit of a setback. So even though I was taking it easy, one day I needed to go down. It was like this ad hoc thing where my neighbor called me and needed to jumpstart the car. And I started to get more confident in the boot because I could walk a lot easier and things felt good. And I stepped off the curb and I felt a bit more of a jarring sensation in the Achilles. So that was not good. And that was a few days before I went back to my appointment. So sorry, this must have been in week 11. And it was a little bit annoying because I knew I had a scan, which I was really trying to prepare myself for. So I'd get a good result. So I'd have a bit of a mental win. So I did that. And I would say just be careful. It's so easy to have setbacks in the process, to think that when you're in the boot that everything's fine and you can do anything and literally everything is not the case. I almost actually ran at least like 2 steps one day when I was in the boot because things started feeling so good. And as you get more access to that angle, your foot's just in a position where you can like sort of run off or lever off it or walk better. So I think the big lesson I took away is not to get too comfortable in those positions. Then in week 11, I had my physio appointment where I had the scan, and this was really cool. So I think at week 11, week 12, you're meant to have Achilles, especially in the section I got injured. Each case is probably going to be different, but you have 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter measurement. I don't exactly know if that's a width by depth, but I had an excess of 1 centimeter in both directions, which my physio was really happy with. So that was good. I got given 2 new exercises in that appointment, so I'm going to share those with you. And the big next steps forward, which were really positive, was at home. He told me I would, first of all, take my boot down to 0. So now I've got a neutral stance for my foot's in the boot. The second thing was a few days later to change the sole. So I've got a Vacoped boot, so it's got like a really thick sole on the bottom. So not a wedge. This is just to help you sort of in the walking motion, was to change that to a thinner one. I did that, and I really don't like walking in the thinner sole at 0 neutral degrees. So I've not been doing that, and I'll probably do it when I'm able to go past neutral into a little bit of dorsiflexion. So I didn't take that one up, and I'm not going to for 2 weeks. The other thing that was really good was I've been told to walk not barefoot, but in shoes with a wedge at home. So I'll show you my walk. I've actually got trainers on at the moment on both my feet. So I'm using the Adidas trainer I bought in Lisbon some time ago. It's already got a bit of a heel drop, as you can see. The heel is higher than the sole at the front of the foot. And I've put in a 2.5-inch wedge into the back of the boot. This one's by Wellen Ove, which is quite cool because there's multiple wedges that make up this one 2.5 centimeters. I'm going to be able to go down in something like 0.5 centimeter increments down to 0 eventually. So at home, I'm now walking around in trainers, which is pretty cool. I'll show you my walk shortly. It was not, it was slightly different on the first day I started walking, but effectively it's pretty much what I'm going to show you shortly, which is a dramatic improvement on what I was able to do. So that's about it. So that's it for the next 2 weeks. And when I go back to physio, my physio said he's going to show me how to walk barefooted next time I go, which I think means I'm going to be able to take my foot past neutral. At the moment, I'm not really doing that. The other thing I would say is I took a little bit of advantage. So day after I went for my physio appointment, and I am no longer on crutches. So he told me I don't need them anymore. I carried them around that day just for safety, but I was walking around to 2 appointments I had in London. I hadn't realized it was going to be that much walking, but I took a bit of the mick, and I ended up doing like 16,000 steps in a boot. And I was rushing for one of those appointments, and I almost had a really big setback. So I slipped in the shower. Luckily, I was sitting on a stool, and it was when I was trying to get out, my hand just slipped off the side of the bathtub. I was rushing, and there was really no need to be, because that setback would have been way more detrimental than being late for this appointment. And I actually ended up putting a small hole because I fell onto this stool that sat in the bathtub, and the bathtub, I guess, wasn't that strong, and there was a small dent I had to fill. So thankfully I didn't do anything to my foot because it was like extended out in front of me. So when I fell, it kind of just stayed in that position, and there was no increasing dorsiflexion or anything like that. So I would just say, in terms of setbacks, I was trying to get through this whole period without any, and I've had 3, and one could have potentially been really bad. So it's a little bit lucky, I think, not having a setback, because it's just a small little mishap that can happen. So just be extra careful. And a little bit like when I practice handstands, you may want to think about, if something does happen, how would I fall? So I'm going to show you a walk that I do barefooted at home, just because it helps me get to places and it feels kind of safe. But it holds my foot in a position that if I fell, I'd try and hold my foot in that position and not land on that foot. who knows if I'd be able to do it or not. And finally, that's about it. The first day today. So this is cheating a little bit because it's sort of start of week 12, the first couple of days. I'd had my first standing shower. So I stood in the shower, maybe against advice, I'm not sure, but it felt safer than sitting down, if I'm being honest. I don't move my feet. So my feet are just stuck in one position for the full shower that I feel stable. My injured foot, my left foot slightly out in front of me. So it's not completely in neutral. It's actually just slightly at an angle. And it felt good. I used the shower with my hand, and that's pretty much it. And then I sat down to do bits and bobs. The stool is still there if I need it, and I'm still holding on to the sides of the bathtub when I get in and out. So doing everything that feels safe, and just being extra careful I don't slip, because that's water, I think, is going to be the most dangerous thing for the next few weeks, and a slip that sets me back. So that's all I really wanted to tell you today. Thanks for looking at this new setup. I hope you like it, but tell me if you have any comments. And that's pretty much it. I follow another vlog which I found really useful, one, and that's SJ's vlog. I've talked about it before. The thing that I got from that vlog that I've actually started doing now, because I'm wearing shoes or and not fully in a boot, is to put some sort of kinesiology tape. I've got rock tape on the back of my foot, so it indicates to other people that there is still an injury, and to me, because now when I'm in two normal pairs of shoes, it can be easy to forget, to be honest. So be careful, and maybe think about this if you're at that point in your journey, to maybe put a bit of tape on your Achilles. So let me show you my walk and the 2 physio exercises. Okay, this is my walk. With a 2.5 centimeter wedge in the shoes. I'm going to demonstrate the walk that I said I do. Sort of getting out of the bathtub. So I literally have this foot in front and I don't. Let's walk around like that. Last thing are my physio exercises. The shoe. Yeah, I've been told to do my physio exercise with the shoe on now, which I think allows you to put a little bit more force through your foot. So actually starting to do a single leg calf raise, whereas before I was doing it floating like that. Now, dealing with the shoe on here, this is creating a bit of resistance. Just trying to get my heel off the floor. The other one, same as before. Which one? You just increase the band thickness. I probably need the black one, which is a little bit stronger, so I'm going to order that up. But it does make a difference with the shoe one. That's it, guys. I'll try to do a week 12 possibly, but I think these vlogs are going to get a little bit shorter and rarer because things are moving a lot slower now. So it's just a case of being good, trying to minimize setbacks. Good luck with your recovery, and I'll catch you in the next one.